started. All right. All right. So welcome to 2024. The number one question that I have been getting from people is, I want to get an investment property. How do I go about doing this? So I'm giving you my top tips for getting an investment property in 2024. Now, my tips are not going to be like these guru tips or multifamily house hacking, all of that kind of stuff. No, my tips come from a practical perspective, seeing where people went wrong and seeing where people went right. During the course of my law practice, being a real estate attorney for 20 years, and also as a real estate investor myself. So I'm going to give you the actual tips that you need to succeed. Okay. Before I jump in for that, I want to invite you to my webinar coming up on January 30th at 12 p.m. You can register for that. It is called Capital Investing 101. It is by far my most popular webinar that I do, and it teaches you the ins and outs of being a capital investor. As you all may know, Epic Impact Investors is my company, and we are a hard money lender and a capital investor developer here in Chicago. We basically are the bank, right? We provide financing and funding for fix and flip renovations, fix and flip properties, right? So when developers are trying to flip or fix a house, they come to us, we evaluate the deal. I pool my investors together and we provide the money for them to finance and fix up that property. All right. So it is by far the most passive form of real estate investing. I've been doing this for 10 years. And I have done several projects before I even formalized Epic Impact Investors. And now I have several investors that invest with me on various deals. We just finished up a few projects over in the Austin neighborhood here in Chicago. And right now we have a project going on in the Atlanta area down in Georgia. So my investors receive typically a 10% return. Again, it depends on the deal. And it is truly passive. We just put up the money. I manage the project. I do the due diligence. And I invite you to my webinar on January 30th at 12 p.m., where I go into detail on how to be a capital investor and what it all entails. All right. So don't miss that. You can register for that. Make sure you're on my email newsletter. Go to epicimpactinvestors.com. Under resources, go to subscribe to newsletter. And I send a newsletter, I send a newsletter out every Thursday. All right. And every Thursday, you'll get updated information on protecting, profiting, or prospering your real estate business. So you'll be able to register for that webinar there. I don't think I have it up on my website yet. Otherwise, I would send you there. It's epicimpactinvestors.com. It'll be up there soon, but definitely subscribe to my newsletter. You can do it in the footer on my website, or like I said, just go to resources on the menu and select subscribe to newsletter. So you get that information. All right. So who am I? I am Alexis Hart McDowell, you all. I am a real estate attorney, a real estate investor, and a hard money lender. And my purpose is a twofold purpose. So one, I help educate people that the purpose for real estate investing is impact and inheritance, right? To have an impact on your community, in your family, and globally, and to receive an inheritance for that and to leave an inheritance for that. It's a twofold inheritance. You get it and you leave it for the next generation as well. And then my second part of my mission is to help unblock the pathway for those who want to invest capital according to the Lord's purposes. All right. So that's what I'm here for. And so now I'm going to dive right in to my top tips for getting and keeping a rental property and your profits in 2024. All right. So number one, my top tip, you all, I know people usually save the top tip to the end. I'm an attorney. I like to be concise. I like to give the information up front. So I'm going to start with my top tip. And it's a lot of things people don't really think about, right? Number one top tip is your purpose. You have to have a purpose behind real estate investing. If you don't have a purpose, you are going to be flowing with the wind every which way it turns. Any trend that comes along, any fad that comes up, you're just going to be following it. Okay. And that is not a foundation for a successful real estate investor at all. All right. So you have to have a purpose. And for me, the purpose of real estate investing and what God wants you to know, the purpose of real estate investing is impact and inheritance. Impact is essentially God's everlasting love manifested on earth through those who decide to accept God's invitation to fulfill the purpose that he has for your lives, right? So you want to leave an impact on this earth. And you can do that through real estate investing. The second part is inheritance, right? And inheritance is essentially the tangible blessing. It's a tangible blessing. Not all blessings are tangible, but it is a tangible blessing for trusting, obeying, and aligning with God's directive. And we've seen that in so many Bible stories, but I guess it is most poignantly displayed in Abraham and Isaac's story, right? He received a blessing, a tangible blessing for trusting, obeying, and aligning with God's directive. So number one, you all, the number one thing that's going to help you acquire your property, maintain that property, and keep the profits rolling is to understand your purpose behind real estate investing. Now, I understand that that's not going to be everybody's purpose, but I'm just saying that's my purpose for real estate investing. And that should be the purpose of those who want to continue to have an impact and an inheritance after they're gone. All right. So that's number one. Number two, stack your cash, right? I know it sounds like that is just the obvious one, but I cannot tell you how many people are unable to get a property or even keep the property because they don't have enough cash. You have to have cash to be a real estate investor. So as far as the purchase is concerned, you need to have as much cash as possible as you can possibly can for the purchase. Why? Because the more money you put towards your purchase price, the more your purchase price goes down. I should say your mortgage goes down, and then the more your property will cash flow, right? And the whole point is to have that cash flow, right? So you need to have cash so that you can put more money down. Okay. You have a lesser mortgage and the more your property will cash flow. I think a lot of people forget that if you already own a home and you're doing an investment property, most lenders are going to be looking at 20 to 30% down on an investment property. Okay. Now there's different mortgage programs. They change all the time, right? But typically they're looking for 20 to 30% down on an investment property. So you need to be cash heavy, definitely for a purchase. You also want to have cash for maintenance. That's right, for maintenance. Why? Because you never know when something is going to happen at that property that you're responsible for fixing within 24 to 48 hours. You don't know when a pipe is going to burst. You don't know when the roof is going to start leaking. You don't know when the appliances in there go out, right? So you need to have cash to be able to replace or repair and maintain that property. If rodents start coming in, you need to be able to call the rodent people, the termite people, whatever, within 24 to 48 hours to get them to come out. And I think a lot of people forget that you need ongoing cash. They use the money to subsidize their lifestyle, which is fine, but you have to have some money set aside for the maintenance of that property. Okay. And ongoing maintenance as well, because we talk about getting, but we forget about keeping the property. You're going to let that property get run down. And remember, expenses don't get less as properties get older, right? And as time goes on, the expenses don't go down, they go up, right? So you always want to make sure that you have money on hand to handle whatever incidentals come up, and so that you can get ahead of it. If you're able to plan for it, if you said, hey, I've had these appliances for this long, or I know the roof is 15 years old or 20 years old, and I need to kind of invest in that, that's an even better use of your money, because now you're being proactive as opposed to reactive, and you're saving and you're able to take care of that property. All right. The next reason why you need to have cash is operations, actually operating your investment property. People forget that it is an investment. It is a business. It's an investment business, technically, that you're going into, right? So when the tenant stops paying rent, okay, for any reason, they could have been laid off. They could end up with an illness. You have tenants who end up with cancer and things like that, that they just can't afford to pay the rent, right? Now you've got to cover that portion of the mortgage, right? If that tenant's rental payment go towards the mortgage, when it doesn't come in, you need to be able to have reserves to take care of that, right? Operations also includes your legal fees, right? Tax preparation fees. If you have to have an attorney evict a client, that's going to cost money. So you're going to want to have that set aside. If you end up in a landlord-tenant dispute, it's not always evictions. It could be a legitimate dispute. You're going to need money to be able to take care of that. If you end up with a building violation for some reason, the trash wasn't put out correctly, weeds, failure to do something or another, right? You're going to need cash to handle that building violation. So you need cash for ongoing daily operations of the rental property as well. Okay. So my number three top tip is your credit score. Oh my goodness. I think a lot of people forget about this, or they just try to ignore it. Either way, they forget or they try to ignore it. So let's be clear. You need to have the highest credit score you can possibly get. Raise it as high as you can and keep raising it. I even recommend utilizing a credit repair service if you need to. And if you need a company, reach out to me, just send me an email. I'm happy to put you in contact with a reputable company. There are a lot of scammers out there, but I'm happy to put you in contact with reputable companies. I can give you a couple different recommendations. Okay. And you need a high credit score because you don't know when you'll need to do if you need to do financing to acquire the property, if you need to take out, if you need to refinance the property, if you need to do a cash out refi. When you have a high credit score, you're going to get the better rate. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're tackling your personal finances well and that you're handling everything on the up and up so that you can have a very high credit score. I think a lot of people want to turn their nose up at trying to raise their credit score, but things have changed in that industry so much, right? You've got AI services now helping people raise their credit scores. You're now able to get your utility bill payments on your credit report to help raise your credit score. So there's a lot of different ways to help raise your credit score, especially when you want to go into real estate investing. So if you want to acquire a rental property, get a high credit score and start now. And like I said, reach out to me if you want to get a reputable company. And remember, you're looking at maybe $25, $30 a month to help raise your credit score. And you don't have to do it forever. If 2024 is 12 months, you all, so what if you end up buying this property in December because it took you 6 months to raise your credit score? That is the best thing that you can do because you put a plan together and then you executed the plan, correct? Right. So I would rather you take 6 months to raise your credit score and then end up buying a property with a better interest rate than you not doing it at all, you not having in cash, and then you have a low credit score and you get a high rate. Now it affects the cash flow of the property because your financing rate is so high. Okay. So number 3 tip, raise your credit score and keep raising it. Number 4, financing. A lot of people need to utilize financing in order to buy an investment property, and that's fine. Not everybody can do everything in cash. I do recommend doing it in cash, but I understand not everybody can do that. So you may need to get financing to acquire the property, or you may have to refinance the property at a later date to get cash out to maintain the property, right? So you want to know all of the underwriting requirements up front for the loan that you want. I think a lot of people just say, oh, I'm just a conventional loan. Oh, just this standard investment loan. Loan programs and products change all the time. So you need to stay in tune with a great loan officer who understands investment properties, right? They probably have some of their own investment properties. Those are the loan officers that I know who have the best grip and the best handle on the types of loan programs that are going to work for an investor. Right. If you want some recommendations on some loan officers who know investment properties and the loan programs back and front and can tell you from the beginning what's going to work and what's not going to work, reach out to me. I will give you some referrals. But you have to know all of the underwriting requirements. Nothing worse than you just throwing caution to the wind. Oh, let me apply for this loan and then find out, one, you don't have a credit score, right? That's super easy. You could have known that. The loan officer could have told you from the beginning, oh, you need a minimum XYZ score, right? But if you have a higher score, you'll get a better rate, right? Or you didn't have enough cash reserves, right? You can find that out from the beginning. Know all of the underwriting requirements up front for the loan that you want, and take your time to investigate the investment loan products. Like I said, this landscape is changing all the time. I know that there's a new investment loan product out that has to do with FHA. So be sure to inquire about that with loan officers and get a loan officer who educates. Okay. And like I said, I do have referrals. If you all want one, reach out to me via email. Number 5 tip. And you are probably not going to be happy with this one, but it is definitely one of the ones that help make a successful landlord. That is taking landlord classes. Take the landlord classes, you all, before you even own the property. Some of these classes are free. Some of these classes are a nominal cost, $25, $50, $60 for a series of classes. All right. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know it. So start taking classes now so that you can become a good and profitable landlord. You may even need to take multiple classes. You may need to take specific types of classes. You'll need to know about legal matters, including fair housing, eviction, housing violations. You'll want to know what systems will help you best manage your property. You want to know how to communicate with your tenants on how to collect rent and reporting and documentation of issues for state and federal governments. You want to know about your taxes, budgeting, marketing when you need to get a new tenant, right? You want to know about maintenance of your property. You are always better going into a situation with more information on where to go for resources than trying to figure it out when you're in the midst of a fire. So if you know your goal in 2024 is to get a rental property, start looking up landlord classes right now. They're getting ready to start this week. It's the top of the year. Everything starts. Their nominal cost, $25. But at least you'll start to have the resources and the places to go when you need information, instead of trying to figure all of that out when you're in the midst of an issue. Okay. So let me recap the top 5. Number 1 is understand your purpose for real estate investing. That is impact and inheritance for me and for others. Number 2 is be cash heavy. I just cannot stress that enough, you all. Be cash heavy. Cash for the purchase, cash for maintenance, and cash for ongoing daily operations of your rental property. Number 3, your credit score. Get it up and keep raising it as high as you can. Number 4, financing. Know all of the underwriting requirements up front for the loan that you think you want to get. Number 5 is take landlord classes now. Ask the questions that you need to ask now. Get in front of the scenarios that happen that they will present to you in landlord classes now, so that you can have an easier time and are more confident when a situation arises that you can handle it and save yourself money, because you're not just throwing money at a fire instead of going to get the actual fire extinguisher. Okay. Number 6, and this one is so important and I think it's often overlooked, but let me give you all some details on number 6. Number 6 is start to create your team. Real estate investors are not successful on their own. They are not successful on their own. You have to have a team. Getting a rental property is running a business. It is running a business. I don't care what anybody else wants to say. It's running a business. You need to have a team that includes lawyers, tax professionals, and a community that you can turn to. So, for example, with lawyers, you want to already have on your roster a few lawyers who handle evictions, because you never know when you're going to need someone, and you don't want to have to just look up, throw a dart against a map saying, all right, which lawyer should I use? Start meeting lawyers now, and don't just stick with one. Get 2, 3, 4 lawyers in a Rolodex, so you can say, oh, I need an eviction. Let me call up these 3 people. You may call someone up and they may no longer do evictions. You may call someone up and they're so busy they can't take capacity right now. You may call someone up and their fee is just exorbitantly too high for what you have going on. So you want to have a deep Rolodex of real estate professionals that you can turn to help you with your legal matters. Okay. So one is a lawyer, someone who handles evictions. You may need someone that handles landlord tenant disputes. It may not be an eviction, but it may be a dispute. Not all lawyers handle all things. Okay. It may be a building violation that you have to show up to court with. And depending upon how you're holding this property, a lawyer may be required. For example, if you hold your property in an LLC in a business form, you can't show up because it's a company. You have to hire a lawyer. Your lawyer has to represent your company. Okay. So real estate lawyers handle different subject areas under real estate. So you need to have a Rolodex of lawyers, a contact list of lawyers that handle evictions, landlord tenant disputes, property violations, whatever it is. Get 3 or 4 under each one of those subject matters, and just keep that information. Okay. Number 2, you need a tax professional, right? Get somebody who specializes in real estate, you all. And I'm not talking about a bookkeeper. I'm talking about an actual licensed CPA who can give you information on exactly the type of investing that you are doing. Just like not all lawyers handle all types of real estate or landlord tenant matters, not all tax professionals handle all real estate matters. Some don't handle real estate at all. So you want to make sure you have someone who is specialized in not only real estate, but the type of investing you are doing. If you're doing rentals, you need to have someone who specializes in rentals, who has a book of clients who have rental properties that they know the ins and out of. Okay. And you want someone who can help you maximize your properties to your benefit. Okay. No different than having a great lawyer. People love coming to me because I gave them information to help them. I'm a value add. You don't just pay me a fee and not get any information. I'm a value add. You want the same thing with your tax professional. And then lastly, you want to get yourself into various communities. And I'm not just talking Facebook communities. I'm talking communities in your local area, in-person physical communities. Okay. Why? You want to be in communities with other real estate investors. You want to be in communities with other landlords or housing providers. You want to be in communities with property managers, because while you're the property owner, technically you're the property manager as well, right? And so each one of those investors, landlords, property managers have different perspectives on the property, and they interpret information coming from your local community different. And you're going to want all those different perspectives to help you make the right, best decision for yourself. Okay. So when a law comes down in the city of Chicago, we have different ordinances. So when ordinances come down, you want to be part of a community that's going to be able to discuss that ordinance, who's going to be able to show up and communicate why it's in your best interest or not in your best interest as an investor or as a landlord or as a property manager, right? And you need to be in person in those communities. You got to come up off of the Facebook groups and get in person in your community, get your name out there, start connecting with other people so that you know where to go to get the resources that you need. Okay. And my last tip for getting and keeping a rental property and your profits is know your numbers, you all. Know your numbers. You want to know your numbers on acquisition. You want to know your numbers on maintenance. You want to know your numbers on profits. You need to know how much rental income can I actually make, not the high end. You probably want to start with the low end, depending upon the type of property that you have. People always shoot for the stars, shoot for the low end and say, what are my profits if I make the minimum amount of rent here? And if I have a mortgage, what amount of that covers the mortgage? If it covers all the mortgage, how much do I have left over? I think a lot of people forget to put money away for maintenance, for operations, and then they think that's just profit. And then when something pops up, they have no money. They put nothing away to handle those needs. Okay. So you have to know your numbers for acquisition, for maintenance, for operations, and profits. Okay. Now, there are a ton of different financial theories out there. There's the 1% rule. There's the 2% rule. Whichever one you decide to use, you need to find one. You need to understand it front and back, what it incorporates, what it doesn't incorporate, and you need to work it. You can't just start with one, then flip to another, and flip back to another one. Find one and work it. But you have to understand the financial theory that you are utilizing. Okay. So know your numbers is my last tip on getting and keeping a rental property and your profits. So let me just recap real quick so that you all know. All right. So number one is your purpose. Understand your purpose for real estate investing, which is impact and inheritance. Number two, cash heavy, you all. You can never have enough cash. You need cash for the purchase. You need cash for maintenance. You need cash for operations. Number three, your credit score. Get it high and keep it high and keep raising it. Number four, financing. Know all of the underwriting requirements for an investment loan that you can. Okay. Know it up front. Number five, take landlord classes right now. If you want, you can just Google landlord classes in your area. A list will come up. If you want a referral, I have a company, CIC, Community Investment Corp, I believe. They do landlord classes. Theirs is starting January as well. Number six, get your team together. Start collecting business cards. Start going to things where lawyers, real estate tax professionals are speaking so that you can start building your contact list of 3, 4, 5 lawyers in all different areas and CPAs in different areas so that you can start building your team now. Along with that, get into in-person community with other investors, landlords, and property managers. And number 7, know your numbers. You need to know your numbers on acquisition, maintenance, operations, and your profits. Now, I promise you all that if you follow these top tips, and like I said, these are the most success guaranteeing tips, but these are the least talked about tips. Okay. If you all follow these tips, you start putting the legwork in right now. You start putting action behind your ambition to have a rental property this year. You will accomplish it. You will not only get your rental property, you will keep it and your profits. All right, y'all. So those are my top tips. Thank you so much for joining me. Put your questions in the comments. I will definitely come back and answer any questions that you all can have. If you need a consultation, go to epicimpactinvestors.com and schedule a consultation with me. If you're looking for a hard money loan, reach out to me. Not only does Epic Finance provide private capital for our own projects, I'm also a broker and can help locate financing for other projects that you all may have, okay, across the nation. So epicimpactinvestors.com. I'm Alexis Hart McDowell, and I wish you much purpose and profits this year. Take care. Oh, don't forget, sign up for my webinar on January 30th at 12 p.m., where I'm doing my most popular webinar, which is Capital Investing 101. I will definitely put the link in the description, and also visit epicimpactinvestors.com, where I will include it there. All right. Thanks, everyone, and have a fabulous rest of your week. Take care.